Today I want to talk about comfort zone. So every single one of us have heard this term sometime or the other. Again, comfort zone, it defines itself, right? So it is something, be it an ideology, belief, family system, or something that assures us of some kind of comfort, as in some kind of safety, security, a little bit of certainty, because vast majority of our life is filled with uncertainty, whether we like it or not. So comfort zone is something or somebody or some place or something. Again, like I said, it could even be totally an abstract thing like an ideology, a concept, something that occupies an important role in our life because it gives us a sense of peace or stability of some sort. And to some extent it is good, it is essential that we feel safe. But what happens is that once we start attaching too much of value to the comfort zone, and once we start constructing our entire life, our lifestyle, identity, career, everything, every aspect of our life based around that comfort zone, and it has taken a solid root in our life to an extent that is preventing us from doing or saying or thinking anything new, anything different, anything out of ordinary, anything a little bit challenging and adventurous in a good way, as in something that helps us grow, change, evolve, grow in the sense as a human, as an individual. Again, people have been so stuck in their comfort zones, they just become afraid of anything different from what they already know. That becomes a very dangerous pattern, because the comfort zone, which was earlier something good, positive, constructive, has now become a prison. We have surrounded our whole life around it, that anything out of that known familiar becomes a scary thing. So all of a sudden, this safe concept has suddenly become a mental prison or an emotional prison. It's even a prison of fear, because all of a sudden it is now becoming driven by fear. Something that came out of a sense of security, safety, good and certainty and some kind of a solid foundation has now become a breeding ground for fear. And once anything outside of comfort zone becomes a scary thing for us, anything different from the known and everything unknown, unfamiliar, untouched, any uncharted paths becomes a fearsome things that we absolutely avoid them, just keep our attention away from them, and absolutely try our best to kill the very things that are unknown because of the fear coming from within us. Since we do not know how to handle our own fear coming out of our own overly getting used to the familiar and stopped being a little bit adventurous, joyous and experimental with life and choices and yourself, we become entrapped in this prison of fear that we start trying desperately to kill anything that is unknown, quench, neglect or hurt, or try to destroy psychologically or otherwise, because it's coming from a sense of insecurity, because I don't know this and it is causing me fear, and instead of journeying towards it, I will try and destroy it in some way or the other. Words, ideologies, concepts, again societal stuff, social stuff, anything unknown, anything different, anything unfamiliar becomes an enemy all of a sudden. The life that was supposed to be interesting, challenging, adventurous, and a little bit of everything now becomes a stuck place dominated by fear. And this fear is coming from within you, and you don't want to acknowledge it, you don't want to address it, you don't even want to look at it and question why and where it is coming from. Instead, you want to keep the comfort zone so desperately and fear to be destroyed that you want to destroy the very thing that is causing that fear in you. You are going to fail, and it's going to breed more and more chaos and drama and more problems in your life, because the very nature of life itself is it changes, it transforms, it has an innumerable number of things in it. The whole universe has a lot of things in it, and the very little few things that has once comforted you in some way has now become your prison, that you refuse to look at the entire rest of the world and universe and creation and whatever it has, and you refuse to even look at it. And it's not just refusing to look at it. A lot of destructive nature comes from that tendency to desperately wanting to destroy that which is causing us to fear. Fear is coming from you because you built your own prison. The comfort zone becomes a prison after a while if you refuse to live a more awakened, more adventurous, more interestingly open life. If you're not open to new things, if you're not open to challenges, if you cannot put yourself out there in a different, unfamiliar, unknown situation, person, events, ideologies, concept, just with an entire open heart, just to experience it, nothing else. If you cannot have that kind of spirit in you, you have already built a prison around you. And you desperately try and destroy everything that is not fitting into your comfort zone, because now that fear is emerging within you and you are scared of it, that it might destroy you or your comfort zone, that you destroy the cause, whatever is causing that fear. It could be people, event, situation, ideologies, concepts, any other social rules, and it becomes very, very damaging, because imagine the same kind of destruction every single person who is unawakened to the truth of life, to the truth of the universal laws is doing. Imagine the amount of damage they are causing. Imagine the amount of emotional, physical, psychological and sexual and financial and real physical violence that people are inflicting on themselves and others just because they are terrified of something that is different from their own familiar box that they have been living for so long. This is also the truth of why relationships become or turn toxic. Some are toxic from the beginning, like I mentioned, because of the codependencies and unprocessed and unhealed traumas, personal wounds and ideologies, damaging extreme ideologies, having no boundaries and all those things. But there are also cases where any kind of relationship, any two people interacting on a regular basis or participating in some sort of a dynamic, it will turn toxic because everyone involved is desperately trying to hold on to their own comfort zone, whether it has become outdated or turned into delusion, just because they want to hold on to something that makes them feel comfortable on some level, safe. That comfort zone not only becomes the prison for yourself, but it will also turn into a toxic poison that poisons the relationships you get into. Because you refuse to live a full life. You refuse to step out of that comfort zone. You refuse to grow. You refuse to learn. You refuse to even listen to something different, challenging, uncomfortable, and an entirely new way of life or ideology or concept or anything like that. People, backgrounds, lifestyles, anything and everything becomes a threat to you. And instead of addressing your inner problem, you start desperately trying to destroy something that's naturally coming out of the nature. It's doing its job. And instead of handling it and working on it, instead of just accepting, because there is no other way actually. That is how nature works. But you want to work against the nature, against the whole universal laws, and the very little, less than 0.00001% of the things that you know have now become your prison, that you start attacking the rest of the 99.99999% of the creation. Just because it's unfamiliar to you and you don't want to process the fear. You don't want to get out of your own box that you have created. The prison and the poison. That's very dangerous, because imagine the same thing happening in vast majority of people on this planet. Right now, there is almost 8 billion people on this planet. How many people have that openness and that willingness to experience a real fulfilling life despite the challenges and differentness that they encounter every now and then as part of the creation, as part of life? And how many of them are desperately fighting to hold on to the very little, petty, small, puny, tiny part of what gave them comfort at some point of time, somewhere, be it childhood, be it adulthood, be it as a grown adult or adolescent, doesn't matter. How many people are living like that? And imagine the kind of violence, damage, destruction, poisoning that they're creating only because they don't want to face their own fears. And the fears are coming from their own traps, mental or physical traps. But they are traps nevertheless. And we created them for ourselves. And since we love ourselves so much, instead of challenging ourselves, it's an unhealthy love, because instead of addressing that fear, we start trying to destroy the very nature of how the creation operates, causing destruction externally, because you just want to take that away out of the picture so that you don't feel comfort anymore, you don't feel the fear anymore. It doesn't work that way. But how many people are doing it? And multiply it with 99% of population. It's disastrous. And that's what we're all doing. Vast majority of us are doing. Trapping ourselves and then blaming others.